All right, think about this for a second. You grab the remote, press one button, and boom, that big, dark rectangle in your living room just comes alive. It's filled with color, sound, motion. We do it every single day, right? And if you really stop to think about it, it feels kind of like magic.
But what's really going on there? I mean, how does that box take these invisible signals that are literally flying through the air or zipping down a cable or coming through your internet, and turn them into a movie or a live game? It's pretty wild. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify this incredible piece of tech that's just sitting right there in front of us.
Okay, so to get a handle on the magic, we've got to start with the machine itself. Let's break it down to its most basic level. What is a TV? What's its core job?
Fundamentally, a TV is just a professional translator. Its one and only mission in life is to catch all these different electronic signals, doesn't matter if they're coming from an antenna, a cable, whatever, and convert them into something our eyes can see and our ears can hear. That's the whole game. That's its core purpose.
Here's a really cool way to picture it. Your TV is like a multi-talented superstar, juggling 3 jobs at once. First, it's a super fast translator, decoding all that complicated digital language. Then it's an artist, painting an entire picture with light, like dozens of times every second. And at the same time, it's a conductor, making sure the sound lines up perfectly with the action on screen. And it does all this so ridiculously fast that to us, it just looks and sounds like, well, a movie.
All right, let's follow that signal. We're going to trace its entire journey, all the way from the outside world, deep into the TV's brain, and then watch as it explodes onto your screen and comes out of your speakers. It's a pretty cool trip.
This whole journey basically breaks down into 4 key stages. You've got input, that's just getting the signal into the TV. Then there's processing, where the TV figures out what to do with it. And finally, the big payoff, creating the picture and the sound. Simple, right?
So, stage 1, input. The message has to arrive, right? And it can come from all over the place. You could have an old-school antenna pulling signals right out of the air, or a coaxial cable from the cable company, or, of course, your internet connection for that Netflix stream. You might even have a gaming console or a Blu-ray player hooked up with an HDMI cable. The point is, no matter how it gets there, the TV is receiving this constant stream of digital information.
Okay, the signal has arrived. Now what? Well, now we head inside, into the TV's brain. This is where the internal processor gets to work, taking all that raw data and getting it ready for the big show. You can think of this processor as the director of the whole operation. It takes this big, messy jumble of data that just came in and does 3 things. First, it translates it into a language the TV can actually work with. Second, it acts like a traffic cop, splitting the information for the picture and the sound onto 2 separate highways. And finally, and this is where modern TVs really shine, it enhances the signal, making colors more vibrant, and maybe even upscaling the picture to look sharper. It's a busy job.
Okay, now we get to the really good part. The signal is prepped and ready to go. So, how does it actually become the movie we see and the sound we hear? How do you turn a bunch of ones and zeros into, a dragon breathing fire?
The secret is something called a pixel. Your entire screen is basically a giant, super sophisticated mosaic. Like one of those light-bright toys, but way, way cooler. It's just a grid made up of millions of tiny little lights, the pixels, and each one can change its color and brightness in a fraction of a second. And I'm not kidding when I say millions. A modern 4K TV, you're looking at about 8 million of these little lights. 8 million! That's why the picture is so incredibly sharp and detailed. It's just a crazy number of dots working together to create one seamless image. But it gets even cooler when you zoom in on a single pixel. See, each pixel isn't just one light. It's actually made of 3 even smaller lights called subpixels. 1 red, 1 green, and 1 blue. And by mixing the brightness of just those 3 colors, RGB, sound familiar? A single pixel can produce millions of different shades. It's like having millions of tiny expert color mixers all over your screen.
Now there are 2 main ways TVs do this. With most standard LCD or LED TVs, you've got this big backlight that's always on. The pixels then act like tiny blinds or shutters, opening and closing to let just the right amount of light through. But with an OLED TV, it's totally different. Each individual pixel creates its own light. So if it needs to be black, it just turns off completely. That's why you always hear about OLEDs having those perfect blacks and amazing contrast, because there's no backlight bleeding through.
Okay, so while all this crazy light painting is happening, remember that other signal highway, the one with the audio? That signal gets sent to an amplifier, which,
amps it up. It gives it enough juice to power the speakers, making them vibrate and create the sound waves you hear. And the timing between the picture and the sound has to be absolutely perfect. It's this incredible, synchronized dance. So, there you have it. We've tracked that signal all the way from the source to your eyes and ears, which is cool for sure. But so what? Why does any of this actually matter to you? How does knowing this stuff help you out?
Well, it actually empowers you in two really practical ways. First, it makes you a much smarter shopper when you're buying a new TV. And second, it can make it way easier to figure out what's wrong when your current TV starts acting up.
Think about it. The next time you walk into an electronics store and see that giant wall of TVs, all that technical jargon is actually going to make sense. You'll see 4K and you won't just think better, you'll think, right, that means more pixels, so a sharper picture. You'll know the real difference between OLED and LED isn't just the price tag, it's about how they make light. And when you see refresh rate or hertz, you'll know that's all about how many times the picture updates per second, which is super important for smooth-looking sports and video games.
And this right here is the key takeaway. Now you can decide what actually matters for how you watch TV. Are you a huge movie buff? Maybe that incredible contrast you get from an OLED is worth the extra money. Are you a big gamer or sports fan? Then that 120 Hz refresh rate for super smooth motion might be a top priority. You're not just buying a list of features anymore. You're making a genuinely informed choice.
And trust me, it helps with troubleshooting too. We've all been there, right? The screen is black, but you can hear the sound just fine. Instead of just freaking out, now you can think, okay, the sound signal is getting through, but the picture signal isn't. So the first place you check is the input. Am I on the right HDMI? Is the cable loose? You're thinking through the signal's journey, which is way better than just randomly mashing buttons on the remote. So the next time you kick back on the couch and turn on your TV, maybe just for a second, think about what's actually happening. Millions of tiny lights are flashing and changing color in perfect harmony, 60, even 120 times every single second. All of it is being controlled by a tiny computer that's grabbing invisible signals out of the air and turning them into a whole other world. You know, it's not actually magic, but it's pretty darn close. It's an incredible feat of engineering that we get to experience every day. A little daily miracle, right there in our living rooms.